There we go.
All right, that is correct. Here we go. There you go. There we go. It's all a go. This is the World of Ability podcast. I'm Kurt Roskopf. I'm your host, and we are improvising. We normally have our podcast engineer, Emily Gulmer, and she is out in California. And I also see her on my other device screen over here. She's also plugging into an Integral conference planning session for the event next weekend. So they are all excited about putting the finishing touches on the Integral conference. So you can find that through going to integralautism.org for that conference information. So we have stepping in my illustrious wife, Sue Roskopf. She's coming in to be the podcast engineer, getting us out to all of you on YouTube and doing all the technical finalizing of this recording that is going out to Transform You Media Network and for all of our use here at the Disability Channel, showcasing abilities with the World of Ability Podcast Network, the PAC channel over there with our friend Zach Clayton from Community Pay It Forward, and Transform You Media Network with their podcasting mogul, Marcus Hart out of Milwaukee. And all of that spurred from a radio show I started 6 years ago, Ability MKE Now. So again, you are listening to the World of Ability podcast show, the anchor show for the World of Ability Podcast Network. And when we say podcast, it's also, as they say in the business, podcast, because we are doing video, live stream video over YouTube. And with Zoom recordings, we're syndicating that MP4 file, which is video. We all started this back July 26, 2020, celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it was expanding and expounding upon the Ability MK Now radio show, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. You can listen to us live there for 29 minutes at 8:30 Eastern until 8:59 Eastern. And my wife, Sue, is the lead host for that one. So you might even enjoy that hosting technique more than what I'm doing here. But you're going to have fun with our guests here today for sure. We have Larry and James, who are going to be bringing to us how there is a recycling factory in Africa that is being built. And these capital projects take a lot of money. So we're participating in that call out to the world. Let's help Africa take care of some environmental pollution and, concerns, that we have with what's going on from the fashion industry and with clothes and, everything that it does to Mother Nature, and adverse effects. So before we get to that, I just want to give more of a backdrop of the styling we have here at the World of Ability podcast show. We are all about disability advocacy. So as a host, I sit back and I listen to what our guests are doing. And I think, where are the opportunities in all of this for, say, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities? How do we get participation by the deaf community, the blind community, people with physical disabilities, those living in chronic pain, everyone with the mental health diagnosis, and anyone around the world with a goal of substance use reduction? And wow, I just put a big list out there, but that's still just a conversation starter. Here in the USA, I like to point out, just as an example, to just get us started on the protections from ADA, is everything I just said, plus, ADA gets us thinking about EMF waves, so the pollution that our Wi-Fi and our smart homes and, doing all that remote control stuff that we do, the infrared signals and, just everything we put out there, into the air we breathe and, that permeates our skin. It's like we're in a worldwide microwave type of thing, So the people who have sensitivity to those EMF waves are protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act and ought to be protected in every nation. And whether it's done by law or not, we should just be thinking about this, being sensitive to it, and being accommodating that we can shut down those wave signals to make sure that those that don't have the tolerance for it, that they can participate and not be in that uncomfortable situation there. Then some people are familiar with fragrances, like the perfumes and stuff like that. Some people just stay away from spaces where there's a person with perfumes. So we here in the US, we have those federal laws that say if you're getting federal funds and you're running events, make sure you put out there as advice to all your guests, please don't wear perfumes. And then there's other chemical sensitivities. So we have to look at how spaces are being built, and maybe even as we talk to Larry and James here, and we're talking about clothes and whatever, there could be chemicals in these clothes that individuals are sensitive to. So we're here to take a look at the 2 billion people around the world. 2 billion people of the 7.8 billion people on planet Earth that shaped for me, that I give credit for telling me what the disability community is all about and who I have to learn from so that I can do it better. And then to shift over to the other 5.8 billion people and say, hey, is anybody out there with me? Hey, is anybody with me? Hey, is anybody out there? You know, and say, let's do this together. Let's grow together. And let's mitigate this gap between the community of people with disabilities and those that don't. So with that, we're going to shift back to Mother Nature. We're going to shift back to environment. We're going to shift our minds into fashion. Look at this blue t-shirt I'm wearing saying Lake Country on it. Lake Country, see, we're already at a body of water when you say Lake Country here in Wisconsin, USA. So let's take a look at being inspired through having a skill in fashion and taking a look what people are going to wear, and then having a cause behind it to say that, you know what, we are detecting an issue that if we let the fashion industry continue, there's going to be damage to the environment. And it just sounds like this is like an inanimate object and all that. But then you start looking at all the effects on people, that when it affects our water supply and stuff like this, that this just really gets to be concerned, all starting from the clothes we wear. So what an awareness we're going to get today. And I never thought this deeply about all this until I met Larry through our friend Lynn Shepard with Infone and everything that he does as an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, one of those type of guys. And so we're going to be getting all of our links and everything up to Lynn Shepard, and thanks for making this possible today. So Larry, why don't you come in here? You were great to come on to our radio show, Ability MK Now. My wife Sue had a tremendous pleasure interviewing you for that. So this is kind of a follow-up in show business, but we got to start over because there's a lot of people here, World of Ability, that didn't see that Ability MK Now show. We'll cross-link it. So if they like what they saw and heard today, that they can go and take a look at what you did previously on that 29-minute radio show. But why don't you start from the top? First of all, Larry, let's start with just about yourself at first. Let's just start with, first of all, how did you get into fashion? First of all, so why, Larry, did you get the caring about fashion, getting into that? And then tell us how this whole environmental thing evolved, you know, just kind of unpack it all so we can like relive it with you. Take it away, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you for the last time I was here. I made I came out of a topic like enough is enough. Okay, but this time around, I'll be using another topic like if we don't change the way systems are, we're gonna be paying for our sins. So this is the way it's gonna be. Now I started off fashion because I wanted to change something in Africa. I noticed my people were actually spending a lot on things on low quality products and used products, and it was causing a lot of low self-esteem, and also people were not really enjoying what they're supposed to be enjoying. So I started that. I started fashion 10 years back when I was a student in India, and I did a lot. I did a lot of products. I mean, and I got into the market, but I started noticing something which I didn't like. I found out I was also part of those people who were actually polluting Africa, and I don't want to be that kind of hypocrite who is actually fighting for something and also killing my people. I don't want to do that. So before we go, I'm going to be putting on some numbers today. 150 billion of garments are produced yearly worldwide, and if I tell you almost 93 million tons of this product end up at the landfill, in which Africa has 80% of this thing. I'm gonna go back to that or to that point later. Now, I also want to let you know understand that 20,000 liters of water is what you can use to process just 1 kg of cotton. And if you're asking yourself what can 1 kg of cotton do, is just a top and a trouser, or pant trousers, or a jean. So now imagine how many liters of water are we going to use to process just 150 billion garments? That's almost 93 billion cubic meters. Now, if you we can't just wear cottons like that. We need to do some dyeing, some processing, before it can get to the normal process. So, for example, we have to let's use the word dyeing. After dyeing, we'll put all the water, we'll put it back to the river. It goes to the river, the lakes, and into the ocean. And don't let us forget, we have living things living in this ocean and this water or this river. So what happened? The fishermen go into the river or into the ocean to bring up the fish or seafood for us, and take it to the market. And we as human beings will go to the market, we buy those things, we bring it to our home, we cook them, we eat them. That is one thing that we're saying we're going to be paying directly or indirectly. Now, I want us to also understand that we have the carbon emission from the fashion industry is almost 8 to 10%, which is a lot. And because of that, I'm going to use 2 countries as it's a lot. It can cost a lot of it's causing a lot of environmental pollution. Apart from that, it's causing a lot of climatic changes. It's part of those problems we're having in the that's causing problem for us right now. So I want to use 2 countries as a case study right now. One is an Asian country and one is an African country. The African country is Nigeria. Now, if you, I know many people must have heard about what's going on in Nigeria, the flood happening in Nigeria. Someone said, people said, okay, the problem started from the neighboring country opening up a dam, and after that, the whole process go into blah blah blah. I don't believe in all that. What I believe in is that, okay, when there's improper management of waste products, and you have a drainage where it's not well prepared. And if you remember the last time I made an experiment and I said, when you put waste products in a certain place for a long time and it keeps compiling, as in, it won't take long before it starts seeing flood. It was as if I was prophesying, and you can see what's going on right now. So now let us know. I don't want to talk too much about that. I just want to let you understand that 600 people died. But I'm going to say something. 600 people died, but a lot of people are still going to die. And why is that? 200,000 houses got affected in the Nigerian flood happening right now. And we have what's it called? We have reptiles like crocodile, snakes, even hippopotamus are living among people on the streets. We have outbreak of cholera. We have outbreak of malaria. Now, the most painful part of it, that why I said people are still going to get affected, apart from the 600 people, is because the particular area where this flood got affected are the major place where Nigerians grow their food. And one way or the other, Nigerians also put on, also export food to the world. So it means by next year, since this particular area has been affected, there's going to be shortage of food. That's one thing that, like I said, indirectly or directly, we're going to get affected. Now, I'm going to use the second country, which is Pakistan. I love Pakistan. I love Pakistan rice so much. I eat it a lot. But after the flood that actually happened, the old Pakistan rice disappeared in Uganda, in Burundi, in Rwanda, even in Tanzania. I'm not sure about Kenya because I don't know much about Kenya. This is right, but everything actually, the Pakistan rice got affected. Now let's imagine if we keep having this kind of situation in 20 countries, in 30 countries like that. It's a lot of problem. So, but we need to start letting people understand that this problem is not just our responsibility. Now, the more you keep buying, the more we keep producing clothes, the more we keep going to the stores to buy garments, and we keep bringing it out to Africa. It's a lot of problem for us. So people need to start realizing that one way or the other, they are going to pay for this directly or indirectly. Thank you.
All right, so Larry, help me get us in this conversation the next step here.
Yeah.
You bring to us our friend James
Yeah.
Reppening, and so let's shape the story a little bit. You just told us, kind of what you're working on, as it could be autonomously, but you're
Exactly.
basically building a team around you to
Exactly.
do this more collectively. And James hopped on board with you. Kind of, what was that transition from you were doing this without James to all of a sudden you met James, and what's the role he plays according to you, Larry? Build it up for us. What you got for James here?
Okay. Mr. James has been in the industry for 26 years, recycling industry. And when I mentioned that Mr. James, this is what's going on, I was like, whoa, Larry. So I have someone like me that's actually fighting for the climate changes, and I said yes. So he was like, Larry, I call him my mentor, right now. I call him my mentor. So I was like, Larry, I think I need to start letting people know what's going on in US. So why you focusing on Africa? Let me tell people in US what's going on. So that's how Mr. James came into the picture. And I want Mr. James to say something about it right now.
Sure.
Thank you. Bye.
So thanks, Larry. So Kurt, as Larry said, my background is 26 years in recycling. I got into it with my family when organics recycling was becoming a big deal. Leaves were being banned from landfills, and there was this need to recycle it and keep it out of landfills. So it was a neat time to get in recycling. Products needed to be figured out, processes needed to be figured out. It was really fun. So fast forward to now, I only recently learned how bad clothing is for the environment. As Larry said, it's 5 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. It's worse than all aviation and all maritime activity combined. Worse. The problem we have is when you hear Larry, he experiences it every day, right? There's clothing in the waterways, there's clothing all over the place. Here in the United States, where we're doing a ton of the consumption, buying, donating, we don't feel it. Kind of almost exactly like your statement about the EMF waves and sort of things that affect people that you can't touch, see, or feel. That's one of the biggest challenges here in North America is the factories aren't here. The end of life is not here, and people don't feel it. It gets exported to places like Africa, to Chile, and some of it gets pulled out for secondhand use. Some of it just ends up in landfills, hopefully, but more often it just ends up somewhere where it's not supposed to be, in a desert, in the water, et cetera. So what was super exciting about what Larry's working on is he's putting a recycling facility in a place that has the labor force that is receiving the product already and can turn it into something new, into new fabric. So it is really needed to help solve this problem.
All right, good stuff. So one thing I like about, when we do these shows and people are watching and listening is I think a lot of times in nonprofit work and community projects, we kind of see the finished video and we see the, kind of the result. And, so kind of when I enter into a conversation, I think of training, being a teacher, education. And Larry, you have shown me in my time, knowing you and talking to you that, you're going through a learning curve, doing this, right? You have a passion in what you want to deliver to the world, and you're learning as you go. It's a lot of on-the-job training that you meet people, and then they're like, they'll talk to you and you'll be like, oh, I never thought of that, or that sounds like it'll help. I don't know how it works. And, like you're even showing a GoFundMe, with a QR code and so forth. I'm sure at the beginning of 2022, you weren't really sure how you were going to do your GoFundMe, or that you probably weren't even thinking you were going to use a QR code, but here you are today, it's on your screen, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So tell us more about that, being a fashion designer that has this environmental concern, and you're plunging into nonprofit work and a capital project, something in life you've never done before on that side of things. tell us more about this journey where you probably were quite uncomfortable not knowing, because it really is something, being a pioneer, and you're going to do something and you don't know how you're going to do it, but you know, whatever that is, you're going to do it. Tell us more about that.
When you say willpower, I know, when you say willpower, it's more like it brings out the best part of you. So this journey has been very, very hectic. There are some things I would not want to say, which Mr. James knows about. Yeah. My mission is not just to gather clothes or just recycle clothes alone. What I'm trying to solve out there are just three things. I want to reduce the cost of fashion products, reduce the environmental pollution, and also empower a lot of Africans with the knowledge. Now, this empowerment is going to come later. And how is that? If I start something like this, like I started a recycling facility, and I started giving ideas to a lot of Africans, creating awareness, it means I started, someone do it, the other person is doing it. At the end of the day, we can reduce this whole problem. So it's not just something that I'm just doing it for myself for the long time. I also want other people to come into it, and that's the major thing. So it's a lot of work, but I'm ready. I have the passion. I have the right people around me, and I'm, like I said, I have my mentor that is even teaching me more. So it's willpower that I cannot just give up with. Thanks, sir.
Plus, Kurt, he's not afraid to reach out and introduce himself to someone he does not know at all. It doesn't bother him one bit. He will ask for help, and it's pretty endearing.
Yeah, that's Thanks, man.
All right, so since you've said that, James, why don't we just jump into a little bit of making you two available on this topic right out of the gate. So Larry, why don't you go into, if somebody's interest is piqued, and I mentioned about you have a GoFundMe, you got right on your background there, help Larry build a recycling factory in Africa. And if people are kind of bubbling up as they're watching this video, or listening just to the conversation audibly, and they're like, geez, I want to help that, or I want to learn more about it. Give us a little bit of the backdrop of how you're available, how you're talking to people around the world, the best way to connect, how they find your GoFundMe. I know they can, take their phone and, they can go ahead and get that QR code. But if they're not using that QR code, how do they find your GoFundMe and how do they contact you?
Yeah, to contact me is you can use my email or info@larryropes.com. We're gonna get that to you. And secondly, there's we have our funnel, like it's like a website where we're gonna start sharing out to people, and those are the major ways I think you can get in touch. Or even when you go to GoFundMe, if you go to the environmental parts of GoFundMe, once you type Larry Ropes, I'm sure it's going to show up at that part. So it's not that hard to locate us, because I know a lot of people are not really into the environmental part. So on GoFundMe, when you click Larry Ropes on the environmental area on GoFundMe, you will definitely see me over there. Thanks.
You bet. So James, I want to go to you. I understand this experience a little bit with my own story about hopping on somebody's bandwagon, as they say. And so that's what we're doing. We're hopping on Larry's bandwagon. And I've talked about this type of thing as I talked about the Disability Channel. I talked about how I do a radio show, and I had an appetite to do television side of it. And I didn't do much with my ambition, but then I found on LinkedIn, when I was working on an event called Everyone In, that was inspired through Global Ability Fest, just going about that event planning work. And LinkedIn, all of a sudden one day it said, people you may know. And it showed me this Disability Channel logo. And I went forward and I found the website through the LinkedIn page and contacted them. And I talked to Jay Stoyan and I hopped on his bandwagon. He had me on hello. So I'm supposing that this was a similar thing to you, that before you knew about this project, that you knew about Larry, you kind of had an appetite for this type of thing. and then all of a sudden you came upon this project and or Larry. Can you describe for us, what exactly was it that was your introduction with this project?
So the credit goes all to Larry. So we both are subscribers to a foundation that is doing a ton of work in circular apparel. So Larry just got on there and hit me up and said, "Hey, I'm working on something here in Africa. I'd love to learn more." From my perspective, so I'm building a circular apparel brand here in the United States. And when I say circular apparel, I mean it's designed to be recycled from the beginning. And then we are creating the collection method to ensure we get it back. Then we send it somewhere that we ensure it gets turned into new fiber, new fabric. If we let our products end up in your sort of your standard clothing collection bin that you're used to seeing, we've lost it. The chances that it ends up in a fiber to fiber recycling facility like Larry's is very, very low. That's just not their business model. They are not sorting for recycling. They're sorting to pick out, fashion brands that someone will pay for on the secondhand market. So Larry reaching out helps solve a problem for us. If we are going to be a true circular apparel company, we need to be able to say, we collected it, it went here, here's how many pounds, went back to him, and we can guarantee that it turned back into new fiber. So our company is Again and Again, and we are launching with t-shirts and sweatshirts to another concept that wants to be able to say everything that we sell is circular, and then they will have the collection bins. We will then get it back to Larry. So he really solved the problem for us, but he reached out and found us.
Excellent. So what exactly did Larry find? Tell us more about how we find your company, where are you on social media, how do people contact you and participate in your side of this change?
So my email is jrepenning@againxagain.com, and the website is againxagain.com. And our intent here in the United States is to be a circular apparel brand, but also provide certification to other companies that want to be circular. So we would help them with their design, we would help them with their collection, we make sure it gets to Larry to get turned back into new fabric.
All right, so James, what's the global layout of this? When we're talking about North America, we're talking about Africa. This is a global concern, not just two continents of the globe. All continents of the globe need to worry about this. So give us more of the worldwide landscape, and then you're focusing on North America and supporting the African aspect, and Larry's focusing on the African side. Happy to be of good contribution to what we're doing in North America, but then how does it fit into all the other continents?
Boy, one of the hardest parts about solving this problem of sort of fashion waste and fashion emissions is the global nature. The supply chain is incredibly complex. Even if you're a huge manufacturer, for you to be able to control how it's grown, what factories it go to, does that factory do a good job? Do they take care of the workers? All of those things are very difficult because it might be grown in India. The cotton might have been shipped to China to be woven. It might have ended up in Pakistan to turn into a garment. So very difficult. And that is actually why we're focusing on North America, which obviously in itself is a big market, is you have to just pick a slice and make sure you can solve it and have an impact. Even the massive global brands, have a hard time sort of solving the whole thing at once. You don't want to boil the ocean. Pick a piece of the problem you can solve, get it right. Now you can pick off another piece. But again, in North America, compared to, say, Europe, the awareness of this problem is quite a bit lower. Europe has a lot of initiatives. They have a lot of funding. They have all sorts of great stuff coming around textile recycling. The United States is much more limited, and it starts with awareness. So this is where our big push is, to make sure people are aware of this problem first, and how does it affect, if you can't feel it, how do we make sure you can feel it? And understanding what's happening in Africa is a good way for people to sort of get in touch with the impact of their spending choices.
Right, so Larry, come back into this with our African focus here, and with Uganda and all that. I guess give us first of all more of the African layout, like with where you're physically in Uganda, and kind of what you need to do to just take care of Uganda, and then how do the other areas of Africa fit into, like when you say help Larry build a recycling factory in Africa, we know when we're in a continent that there's different dynamics to make this work for all areas. So can you describe that for us a little bit? What's the layout in Africa for you?
I want you. Uganda is like United States of America because we have a lot of countries, a lot of national people, different kind of people living in Uganda. You get the Somalians, you have the Kenyans, you have a lot of people, Burundians. So now, the concept is when we start here, and there's one thing about Africans: once you start something and they can see that this thing is moving well, it's going on well. In fact, you don't need to force them to do it. Even the government or of other countries will now start calling you that, hey, Mr. Larry, come around, come and help us solve this problem. So, but in Uganda is like the center of the East Africa, because it's they have one of the biggest refugee camp also. So what I want to do here is like we start the recycling factory. Then we now start creating a way to get in other countries. Like we're going to start with East Africa, then later to the West Africa. So the moment we start going to those places, like I said, I'll be thinking about how to start a school for recycling to teach people how to recycle also. So when people come around, they can learn more. Then that's how we can get into other countries easily without stressing. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure. So everyone out there, if you didn't catch the contact information before, you want any help contacting these guys, feel free to also add my contact details in on this. I'm happy to do any follow-ups to this show. Again, you're listening and watching the World of Ability podcast from the World of Ability Podcast Network. We're into podcasting and live streaming and streaming in all fashions, audio and video. If you want the original recording, we can send that out to you. But all requests, comments, concerns, anything coming from this, you can feel free to send a text or go right ahead and call me, leave me a voicemail, whatever ends up happening there. 262-372-1SKI. That's 262-372-1754. And I also, with this international aspect, I know not everybody's going to jump on that USA phone number, but you can use that USA phone number for WhatsApp. I got another one for you, +1-414-514-0186. That's WhatsApp, +1-414-514-0186. And you can email me through my radio show, abilitymknow@gmail.com, or television business, Kurt, K-U-R-T, at the disabilitychannel.us. So with that, I want to ask a question, James. We're going to put you on the hot seat. We're going to see how good this networking is working. I have something showing on my screen that I want to see what you know about. James, what is the Happy Neighborhood Project?
You're killing me. I don't know what it is.
Oh, goodness gracious. Great balls of fire, as the song goes. We have Lynn Shepard and Larry, all this connected through the Happy Neighborhood Project. We got right on my Zoom screen coming from my wife, Sue, free networking, Happy Neighborhood Project, 65 plus events weekly. 55 of them are Zoom events. And I've got a team that I started, Happy Happening Heroes, for the happy co-op side of things. But Larry, we need to reboot here a little bit. We are remiss that James, and this is an opportunity for our audience to learn about the Happy Neighborhood Project. So I'm going to shift the hot seat over to Larry. Larry, you are now in the hot seat. Larry, what is the Happy Neighborhood Project?
Happy Neighborhood Project is like a family, a place where you could come, where you meet different kind of people, and when you have a lot of people with different or career in different sectors, it means you kind of get to get exposed easily. And it's not a place where you just frown, you have to laugh. It's more like a place where it's so contagious. I don't know how I'm gonna put it, but it's a place where it's a program that's gonna help both entrepreneurs, both and anything you have the pet lovers. I mean, among the programs we're running. So it's a place I always tell people, if you're feeling sad, you want to be happy, join that program. It's something that you're going to gain a lot from it. Thank you.
So James, with that, what do you think of the Happy Neighborhood Project?
I think I need to participate. It sounds pretty great. It sounds happy, sounds fun, and meet people. I'm in, Larry.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go. So it is positioned and poised as the happiest place in the world for business people. And speaking of for the world, Larry and James and everybody out there watching and listening, we have an opportunity. I'm taking 20 weeks to grab from as many of the 7.8 billion people in the world as I can. Because since 2014, there's something that has happened in the world business community, the global marketplace, that has not been answered. There's been no answer since 2014. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about that some business people in Belgium had the insight and foresight to say, you know what we can do? We can gather up so many people, in business networking and have them do speed networking and get so many people together for this that we win and we create a record with the Guinness Book of World Records. And so that's what happened in 2014 is the Belgians went ahead and got 1,068 people together and conducted a structured speed networking event that Guinness decided to put it in the record book. 1,068 people, 2014, by the Belgians, is been in the books and not answered. So what we are doing is we're going a third time around. We already did a couple runs saying, why don't we break this record across the last year? And, it didn't work out for us. So now it's even getting more exciting because now it's like the underdog thing. It's like, oh my gosh, these guys have been squashed a couple times around. They got all pumped up, fired up, going to beat that 1,068. Didn't happen. But we are so confident that, with the timing at this point and with our event, that a lot of people with the date know it as St. Patrick's Day, Friday, March 17th, through the International Day of Happiness. We're going to gather as many people that'll come on the hopin.com. So check it out, hopin.com. We're hoping everybody can take the months ahead to get comfortable with that platform and consider it through happyneighborhoodproject.com. And there's a short link that we use, hnpabc.com, gets you to happyneighborhoodproject.com. You can check out an event that we just had earlier this month. Was the Global Happiness Summit. So when you go hnpabc.com/GHS for Global Happiness Summit, you can see what we did there. And we don't have our page updated yet for International Day of Happiness. So I'll give you a chance to look at what we did in 2022. And that you can find it hnpabc.com/IDH, IDH for International Day of Happiness. And so, Larry, you're a co-op. You're a free co-op member with HNP, right? Yeah. So what I'm describing, folks, is Larry, through his email address, went ahead and did the join feature, which was, for the most part, to share your email address. And then the website sends you a token link to your inbox. And then Larry clicked it out of his inbox and boom, he was all smiling. He's like, oh, I'm a member. And he has a dashboard layout. He's got his referral links that he really should have gone to his referral links and clicked copy link and got it to James and enrolled James into the Happy Co-op so James could see these 55 things. But this is all stuff that's all well and good. I'm a mentor at the Happy Neighborhood Project and I'm a co-host captain. I do co-hosting with my wife Sue and a few other co-hosts for Happy Neighborhood Project Wisconsin, Minnesota. So yeah, I'm out of the Milwaukee area with our Milwaukee Brewers here, Brew City, and so we're doing our part here geographically, and then I help captain meetings like Asian entrepreneurs, which really we have Linda McBee is really the captain, but as a mentor, I back her up that if she's in schedule conflict, I make sure that that meeting's taken care of. And we got some other captains, and we have 220 calls. So James and everybody out there, well, and you too, Larry, you're not a co-host yet. You know, let's get a strong H&P Africa meeting going. And, you know, we used to have one, but it kind of went to the wayside. So let's rejuvenate that thing. But right now we're in 5 countries, and there's 3,000 co-op members at the Happy Co-ops. So I hope what's happening here is that we'll have every one of our Happy Co-op members, hopefully by the end of the year, full well aware of this opportunity to help Larry build a recycling factory in Africa. And that's what this is all about. In network marketing, a lot of companies and leadership groups talk about how you can be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So that's what this family, we have Denise Vargas. Yeah, so yeah, Denise Vargas calls it family. That idea of friends are the family you choose. They're friends that are your family. So she gets us talking about each other as family, you know, so that's what we got going here. And I also introduced H&P Ability, which Edwin was like immediately at the word go. He was all for it to play a major role in business networking, to have business networking more available than ever before for the disability community, professionals with disabilities. So James, what are your thoughts at this point? You came here to help Larry out, share what this recycling factory is from the insights of your business, and you know, kind of being a counterpart to Larry. What else did you come here to share out to our audience, and what are you thinking of the show so far?
Well, I think I need to join the Happy Neighborhood Project. You know, what I think I would like more than anything is people to be aware of their contribution to the sort of global problem and what can they do about it, right? So this is a big problem. Just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not happening. What can people do about it? Number one, when you're buying clothes, do a little research, right? A lot of companies have environmental claims, but you have to really see like what's the substance behind it. Like, we're using the most sustainable manufacturing. Okay, what does that mean? So really, like, do the research. What are they actually doing? So that's number one. Number two is buy quality products. A lot of the low quality fast fashion stuff, it is killing recyclers because it has no value, because it has low value materials. It doesn't hold together, so there's no resale. So low quality stuff is a real problem for Larry's Recycling, for Africa, for just the waste in general. And then the final thing is look for solutions for end of life, whether it's resale because it's still in good shape, or somewhere that actually can make sure it gets recycled. Because a lot of what goes into the clothing donation bins, some of it gets baled and goes straight to Africa. Some of it gets picked over a little bit, about 25% ends up as resale, and then it still goes to Africa where a lot of it ends up as waste. So awareness, and then buy quality and know where you can actually take it to recycle it. And it's not easy yet. There's not a clear solution to all those things just yet.
Excellent. So Larry, I want to check in with you and make sure that you're getting everything out there to our audience, and as part of this show that'll be archived and continue to be shared all throughout 2023 as well. What else do you want out there about the project and made available to our viewers and listeners? What else did you come to tell us today?
Can you come again? I didn't hear what you said, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an opportunity. I just want to check in that everything that you had planned for today, in terms of sharing with our audience, our viewers and listeners. What else did you come to tell us today?
Yeah, apart from everything, I just want us I want everybody to know that this whole issue is our responsibility, not Larry's alone, not Mr. James alone, not Mr. Cots alone. It's for everyone. Because just like I said, what you throw, the stone you throw from United States or the stone you throw from Canada is going to come back to you. And how is it going to come back to you? The climate. And that's what we're all facing. So if we can just come together and see like, oh, this is my problem, not just one person's problem or one continent's problem alone, it's gonna go a long way. So please, please let's come together like one family and let's solve this problem together. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of crystallize this. I want to keep expounding on the experience for folks at home and in their businesses and their purchasing practices. Coincidence for you guys being here with me and with our For Today podcast engineer, my wife Sue Roskoff, is one thing my wife Sue has taken on from our household is she's ventured out to a group that is called Just Between Friends. And what Between Friends is all about is it gets out in the community. They get a major expo area or whatever and just set up a ginormous, clothing shopping experience to basically, I guess, to recycle clothes that, hand-me-downs. My daughter is a teenager, 13 years old. And so some of these clothes that have kind of hung around our house, my wife was able to put tags on them and get them out to this outlet called Just Between Friends. They do all the marketing to get all the consumers, all the buyers, primarily ladies out there coming in and throwing this in their shopping cart and checking out. So what is the opportunity for a business model like that to participate in what you're doing? Because, they just sell this stuff. And then at the end of their series of shopping days, anything that is left from the consigners, because like when all of our clothes from around here were put on the racks, it was on consignment. And then there's that whole financial engagement. And then the consigners can pick all their stuff up. So if all consigners pick everything else up, there's nothing left for the business person. But not all the consigners pick everything up. And then the Just Between Friends business person, the franchisee, takes it out to the charitable places. And it all becomes just donation then through the shopping experience. But within those type of things, the secondhand store stuff, how can these businesses be a part of this movement that you two are talking about?
So a really interesting topic, Kurt, because I assume that part of the reason that market exists is because people are holding onto their clothes and they don't know what to do with it and they're trying to find the highest and best use, which also means they know maybe there's something wrong with throwing it in the clothes bin in the parking lot, right? If you thought that was the best place to put it, you would have already done that. So that tells me that people are already looking for a better solution. I think that's awesome. What you're describing, when the clothes have been picked over, the nice stuff has been picked out, you end up with lower value stuff. What you actually don't want to do is go put that in a clothing recycling bin, because that's all they're going to do again is sort it for stuff with some value left in it. So you've already sort of taken the high yield stuff out. So the better way to figure that, to dispose of that, would be to partner with a recycler like Larry, because the good stuff already has been pulled out. Now let's turn it back into new fiber. So that would be the opportunity, but we got to get Larry's plant up and running before it could actually go to him. But it's actually a terrific example of pull the high value resale out, bale it, send it to someone that can turn it back into new fiber. That would be the ideal. But ensuring that the reuse and resale is still there, you don't want to recycle stuff that still has life to it. That's sort of a waste, and you're making new stuff when you don't need to. So it's a really cool concept.
Very good. So Larry, what are your thoughts about all this in terms of what you're trying to do? Like when your factory is operational and, the communities are doing what they're doing, and then you're playing the role to improve upon that. with the, again, thinking secondhand merchandising and all that kind of stuff. How do you want your brand and, you know, the role of your factory to be connected to these secondhand purchase places, the secondhand stores?
Definitely, we're going to actually, just like Mr. James has said, we're going to be working hand in hand together. Like we can create a channel where after all the selection, we can gather all the leftover, then we can make sure it comes directly to the factory or to the facilities down in Africa. Because the moment we let it go out, you must find out some people who are going to use it as something else. So it has to come directly. So the best way I can say is we have to make a way, like a channel, that once everything is sorted out, we get it directly, we bring it down to Africa. That's the best way. Thanks.
So Larry, is this to say that you're aiming in the future to have a distribution or collection process, really?
Definitely.
Well, it'll be a collection process first to come to the recycling factory, and then distribution process to make use of what you produce from the recycled fabrics. So you're aiming to do this in every continent on Earth, or like, what is your exact business plan in terms of the reach of your business?
But we right now, well, I have connection in Spain, in England, in Canada, and in US right now. We have everything set aside. But I also want you to understand that we can only get this done once we have the facilities. If we just keep talking to people and we don't have the facilities yet, everything is just going to be waste. Because in fact, some people want to send me clothes right now. I said, no, you can't send me clothes when I don't have how to process it. So the first thing is, just like Mr. James said, is how can we first build the facilities, because it's going to help everyone at the end of the day. So those are the people I have on board right now. They are ready to get things done. And as soon as we start, every channel is ready, everybody's ready, and just let's build the facilities for that's a major thing. Thanks.
Okay, so this is the way I see it. This is what I'm going to call the Special K touch. You know, Kurt Roskoff, aka Special K. You know, so to help distill this and to spur people to participate in this great endeavor, the way I see it is, like I talked about, the 7.8 billion people on Earth. So I think the way I like to shape it is to say that there's not a person on the planet who's not a stakeholder in what you're doing. So if we can just, you know, embrace this idea from decades past, where we've been taught the idea of 6 degrees of separation. So it's really not that major of a task to kind of get people in our lives who know people in our lives and like-minded folks to figure out who they know and then who they know, and get this viral activity, just spiral this mission around the world, to really build this awareness about how this is going to be so great for all of us. And it's got the very real health impact. You know, and then I think of specific demographics, like with this show, World of Ability. You know, like I say, I can specifically say we focus more on how our people with disabilities around the world, or that 2 billion people, you know, how exactly are they playing a role in helping making this a reality and making it happen? And then as we do this, to carry with it the frontline question. It might come secondarily, but no matter where it comes in conversation or messaging, it actually is our frontline message that it's what's paid gets done. So this all becomes possible through the GoFundMe and other ways that people can monetarily contribute, because we have to figure out in this world of 7.8 billion people how we can get the funds to where it needs to be in Uganda, and to have this factory built. And then all this happens, you know, once you have it built. So I understand. I have an engineering background, and you know, so I understand it's like you're building this black box, and you got the input, and you got the output, and you got this black box that you engineered, and it's ready to go. but you got to build the thing, which it takes components and it takes making that thing happen. Otherwise, it's just on the drawing board. It looks pretty on paper, but nothing ever changes.
Yeah.
So, so it is driven by fundraising. It's a capital campaign for this capital project of, being able to have this building and having it operational and having it staffed the way it needs to be staffed, and having the ongoing expense account, be able to run, ongoing monthly expenses to run a recycling factory. So this is a major ask here at the Whirlability Podcast Network and through all the other channels to say, can you help us reach people? Just reach people. Like I say, it doesn't matter where it comes in conversation. It'll work out that the frontline thing is financial, but some people are like, I can't help financially, and then they stop. So I'm like, if you can help us in messaging by sharing this out through your Facebook account, through your LinkedIn account, through anything you're doing and participating in Instagram or Clubhouse or things like this, anything you learned today, just make this a topic, because I think, and I hope we can all agree that we as inhabitants of planet Earth absolutely, irrefutably, need to do a better job on our relationship with Mother Nature. We have a lot of serious people, like my name Roskopf is Bavarian German. And I know all the Germans over there in Germany, they're uber, proud of how they're very green and take care of the earth. We appreciate everything being done in Germany and Europe and other places around the world, and Africa and all these great things. But like in the disability advocacy, I say, let's take what we do and the magnitude of that in terms of inclusion, accessibility, and accommodation and participation by the disability community in everyday stuff, and let's multiply that by 33. And I present that magnitude of how far we have to go, so that people realize that for some reason, as human beings, we're lackadaisical. We're procrastinators. We put the pro in procrastination. And I say, I'm doing what I'm doing to help people get the ambition, to get the stimulation, get the motivation to act now, to do something today. And, if you can just sit there on your handheld devices and whatever, and to help us get that out there, that all helps. Because if we reach 1,000 people and then they all get it out to their reach, and even if it only goes out to 20 people, then we have 20,000 people all of a sudden know what's going on here today. And then hopefully within that, we can find those people who can help us get to some financial resources, so that this thing can go from all talk, no action to a lot of great talk, and this happens. I want to be a part of the success story where we're having a party, the grand opening of this recycling factory. So let's see what we can do to make that happen. And with that, we're at the conclusion of the show. So I do a little something just for fun and to make sure I didn't steal all the oxygen in the room. I do a little something of another last chance for last thoughts, kind of a 1-minute wrap up. So Larry, you go first. What's your 1-minute wrap up for the show today? Take it away for 1 minute.
Yeah, I want to say a big thank you for that. I'm coming up to talk about this, and I want to say I'm not going to disappoint anyone, because I have this ability, I have this will in me to make sure this project gets better, and everyone can have a peaceful mind that, okay, when we start this thing, it can reduce the emission or carbon emission that's actually coming from the industry. And thank you so much for supporting this project.
Absolutely. So, and James, I think you're maybe familiar with the game show, A Minute to Win It, so I'll show you got a minute to win it. Good luck. So you're next. Give us the last minute of your thoughts. What you got, James?
So Kurt, you're sort of right on about the fundraising and how important it is, because this is really a chicken and egg problem. Without the factory, then there's no sense in collecting and sorting for recycling. And without that sort of demand sitting there to be recycled, it's hard to get the factory built. And that's really where Larry is he needs support, he needs donations to get it built, so that people can start sending him stuff. It really needs to happen in that order. If people are really excited about recycling and there's nothing to do with it, it sort of loses steam and it doesn't go anywhere. So you're absolutely right. It's the donations that make this possible and get the factory built. And then great things come from that.
Fantastic. So it's been a pleasure diving into your story, your mission, and your work, and what your companies are doing, and the teams that you're building. And I wish you both the best in what's all happening. And mark my word, I'll be available all throughout the process. Our goodbyes today are not really functional in terms of my role with your projects. I want to play a role in this because, I guess I want to lead by example. I'm not just sitting here saying this is for everybody else. Kurt Roskoff is going to do this too, to see what I can do to be a part of this story of a factory shall be built. And so with that, again, the story for me was born out of the sport of water skiing. I worked with the state of Wisconsin to more than sextuple the access to the sport of water skiing by and through the disability community. And so I know full well the logistics through the faith community, the service sector, the lifelong learning provided through all the government agency work, and through all the fun things we do in life, whether it's hobbies, pastime, leisure activities, sports, rec. I know logistically it takes all those different hats we wear and those different parts in the days we live to think about, are we or are we not going to think of this connection to Mother Earth and helping environment and climate and health for our fellow human beings and ourselves. So again, one last call out there. Let's help make this recycling factory dream and plan a reality. Let's do it together right here at the World of Ability Podcast Show. With that, I'm yours truly, Kurt Roskoff, saying until next time, thanks for listening and watching. Bye for now. And Sue will get us on out of here.